Hello everyone, this video is on how matter becomes mind, atomic orbitals to thoughts. What if your thoughts aren't something separate from matter, but the most dynamic structure matter can form? Not magic, not outside physics, but the natural consequence of how quantum interactions scale. Everything begins with the electron, not as a tiny particle orbiting a nucleus, but as a wave described by the Schrödinger equation. These waves form orbitals, regions where electrons are likely to exist. They don't collide, they overlap and interfere, just like waves in the ocean. When atoms come together, their orbitals combine. Constructive interference, you have bonding. Destructive interference, then you have antibonding. So a chemical bond is not a thing. It's a stable pattern of interacting waves. Now scale that up. As atoms repeat, orbitals merge across many atoms. Instead of discrete states, you get continuous energy bands, described by band theory. Electrons become delocalized and a lattice emerges. In crystals, lattices are rigid, but nature also builds dynamic lattices, structures that are ordered but constantly moving. These include liquid crystals and cellular organization. For instance, your cell membrane is not just a barrier. It behaves as a lyotropic liquid crystal. Lipids self-organize into a flexible, flowing structure, a lattice that can bend, shift, and reorganize in real time. Inside cells, organization goes even further through liquid-liquid phase separation, just like oil and water. Proteins and RNA form droplet-like compartments. No membranes, no rigid scaffolding, just collective interactions forming temporary structures. These are dynamic, responsive, constantly changing systems. Now scale this idea to the brain. Neurons are not just wires. They are embedded in membranes filled with structured fluids and constantly reorganizing molecular networks. Electrical signals move through ion gradients, chemical signals move through molecular interactions, all of it built on the same foundation. Atomic orbitals form molecules, which form dynamic organization, which we see in the form of lattices. A thought is not a single thing. It's a pattern of activity across this system. Electrical signals traveling across neural networks, chemical signals modifying connections, molecular structures shifting in response. In other words, a thought is a transient, large-scale pattern emerging from a dynamic biological lattice. This doesn't mean thoughts are quantum in a mystical sense. You don't need quantum coherence across the brain. Instead, quantum mechanics sets the rules at the smallest scale. And those rules scale up into chemistry, biology, and eventually cognition. Thoughts are not separate from matter, but they are also not reducible to a single molecule or bond. They exist at the level of organized patterns. So here's the full chain. Orbitals define how electrons behave. Orbitals combine into bonds. Bonds scale into lattices. Lattices become dynamic in biology. Dynamic lattices enable complex signaling, and complex signaling gives rise to thoughts. I think, therefore I am. From quantum waves to living cells to the thoughts in your mind, nothing new had to be added. Just more layers of organization, and somewhere along that chain, matter learned how to think about itself.